One of the craziest transfer is our customer, the Catholic Church.
Hi, I'm Lukasz and this is Space Talks, the place when you could get inspired by a space sector. In this episode, I'm talking with Frank Salzgeber, the head of Innovations and Ventures Office of European Space Agency. Our talk will be about business, as space technology transfer is becoming the more vital driver for many companies, also from non-space market. So if you are interested in acquiring the space solution for your company or starting your business using the space technologies, this is the episode for you. So enjoy the talk and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Frank, you are the head of Innovations and Venture Office of European Space Agency. What precisely this office does and what are its goals?
Thank you for having me, and it's a great question for the beginning because our office has several legs. So we have several support lines where we support startups, SMEs, entrepreneurs, but also existing industry. The first, we help with tech transfer, we and our colleagues, and we promote the access to the IP portfolio of ESA, but also helping enabling interdisciplinary transfer from space to automotive. The ceramic brake is a good example. On the one side, we help startups. So we have the European Business Incubation Centers, the European Space Agency Business Incubation Centers across Europe in 23 centers in 66 locations, and we're just in the preparation also to launch in Poland. There we support startups with the ideas where they take space assets and space technologies, and that's normally three areas: navigation, Earth observation, and telecommunication, not to forget. If you're not a startup, we support SMEs and industry and companies develop products using these space assets. So, and we do not do that alone, and that's the last. Like, we have a network of partners across Europe helping and supporting that, including bringing access to venture capital and investors. So we try to bring back stuff up into the orbit, but also bring back the technologies in the day-to-day application so that everybody in Europe has something out of it.
Thank you for that. You mentioned business incubation centers. So can we say that locating this ESA BA in some region or a country it's a great privilege for the host, because literally there is then an ESA presence in the place?
I think you really hammered the point. Number one, what we learned, and there's a little bit out of my history when I worked in industry for Apple and with my own startup company, we know that every business is local. So we work with the best people in the region. In Switzerland, we work with the ETH Zurich. In the Czech Republic, we work with Czech Invest and Trade because they know the region. So at the moment we're discussing with ARP in Poland and other partners, because there's nobody better knowing the region, knowing the language, knowing also the problems and the opportunities. So there we go, join forces with our know-how, with our technology skilled, internationalization, the space part, together with local, because we're not interested in investing bricks and walls. There are already good universities and incubation centers. So we go as a joint venture together and say, okay, let's really help them. For the region is great because you have, I would say, a kind of ESA shop, a ESA location, and we also promote an advertisement across the agency and other directorates. If you want to do something in that country, in the region, use the ESA Business Incubation Center, because that's the local presence. I don't call them an embassy because this has no status. I would rather say that's the fan shop, that's the point of sales for space-related issues, and a good point also to ask them. So we have to be close to our partners and close to our member states. So it's a privilege to work with the right people, and hopefully it's a privilege to them who work with us.
Well, you didn't call them embassies, but there are ESA business application ambassadors.
Yeah, I always say I would call them evangelists, you know, because they know what they're speaking about, and also should help, because what we learned, we have great funding tools in Europe, in the countries, in the regions, it was ESA. But what somebody has to arrange the marriages. Yeah, somebody has to bring the startups together with the corporates, with the technology experience, with the VCs, and this is what we really enable. So I would say we are the nice uncle and aunt with the right address book and a little bit money in the pocket. And if we do it all well, we play the good father and the good mother of new ventures and new technology.
So I'm very interested in the space technology transfer process, how it looks like, because we have this quick process like downstream, when there is satellite data, and as soon as it's on the market, you can start using it if it's there. But there is also another process for using a hardware, specially designed for some mission, like we are using right now a space tech of for STS or Apollo program. So how this process looks like?
So I think first, it's always easy, like the European Enterprise Network is doing an auto matching. You know, you need paint, who has paint, to use the sensor, But I think the smart part is what we do is really we're looking in what the capabilities this technology has. And just yesterday, I heard about a case which we use a technology from Rosetta. Rosetta was a space mission going for 10 years and landing then on the asteroid. So it's a long time ago, or even old technologies, but a lot of developments, people said, I think we can do more of it. The first is a special camera which can really detect fire in long distance, when we know that we have this problem also in some parts of Poland. And you see what kind of smog is that? Is it dust or really smog? That comes from Rosetta. We have a special sensor, which I saw yesterday, which is measuring the power in wires, electrical wires. And if you even have a bunch of wires, you attach these devices and you can measure it. Why you need that? Because if you want to have predictive maintenance and there's a fluctuation in the power consumption of this electrical engine, for example, subsea pumps, you know that you want to plan this maintenance, because if it's broken, you have an issue. Then it becomes expensive. So and that was coming from the University of Braunschweig. So I really like that the people recycle technology which was used for something else. That is really smart. We are good in Europe recycling plastic. No, not so much maybe, but okay. In glass we are great, in paper we're great. But the most precious and valuable what we have are our ideas and our innovation. And that is really technology transfer. Recycling and technology in a total different field. The process is you work with our patent office, transfer office, or in some countries we have even brokers which abstract a little bit this idea, and you need really people doing that, because you have to see behind and through the technology. And I think that is pretty cool. And it brings a technology which is already developed to somewhere else, which already is de-risked, and brings it somewhere else.
So in the second version, when there is an upstream technology, and you can start using it, as you mentioned, with Rosetta. So how long does it take from the technology that's being developed, used in some kind of mission, and then be available for non-space market users?
It depends a little bit on the technology and the founders. I remember that we had one gentleman in Austria which made the dust collector, yeah, for in space missions to see what kind of dust is in the vacuum even, and in this. But his wife has an allergy, so he was downsizing this sensor, put it into a vacuum cleaner, so when you're cleaning your carpet, is your carpet really clean? So therefore, hardware is hard, software is much easier to transfer. Hardware is hard, and normally I say 2 years, that's something what you need. Can go quicker, can go longer, it depends very much how deep is the technology in a product, in the system. But this is it's a good thing, because something is developed, is used multiple times. Good example is the cold plasma experiments we have done on space station. So this experiment was used by Mr. Warfield, which is a professor, Max Planck. He's now not working in there more, created a company with his daughter. And this is now used for sterilizing open wounds. Especially people with diabetes have this problem, so that they have open wounds. The same technology is used for making French fries without smell. The same technology is used for gas cleaning. So this I really like, using one innovation in different fields. And I think everybody, also big corporates, they should say, how many of your patents are used for a different field than originally applied? And if you have no answer to that, then I would say your innovation recycling rate is 0. That's bad, because I think you can always find a different solution. And startups and small companies normally are very good in this, because they have the passion, they have the curiosity, like we are all had as kids, to find something different and see something maybe we as parents are not seeing.
Can you mention how this steps looks like from the first step that I, as a company, I'm starting to be interested in some kind of space tech, and what happens?
I try to abstract it, because of course we have a process behind it, but the abstract is really, we have to understand, you have to write down what is your problem. I always ask the people, also in the automotive industry, what keeps the R&D manager awake in the night? What is really a problem where they struggle to solve it? With this, we're looking then for the technology and match it. And based then, we propose technology. So it's a very straightforward process. And startup companies doing the same. Startup companies coming to us, they know that they want to use one of the space assets. Sometimes they do not know how. And also there we help. So I think we have this matching where you have to abstract and understand what is the issue. And not coming already with the solution. A lot of people, and especially engineers, they say, yeah, I want to have this sensor because that's the solution. Sometimes the solution is somewhere else.
And can we talk about any exclusiveness? So, for example, I find any space tech that's reaching my goals, my business goals, but I want to be the only one on the market using this.
Yeah, I would say it depends very much on you, because if it's an ESA patent, we don't give exclusivity. We give maybe an advantage in terms of timing, because then you're before the crisis, before your competition. And what we learned, a lot of the technology what we have is not owned by us, because ESA, when we give contracts out to partners, to English industry or even Spanish industry and the rest in Europe, we leave the IPR with the industry. We get a right to use it for space missions, not free of charge, but we leave the IPR with industry. So also we bring the access to the industry's IPR, and there you may do a direct patent. Good example is the ceramic disc, which you find in cars now. First, it was the expensive cars. It's still expensive cars, but it will go down. It lasts 300,000 kilometers, is lighter. So this was a patent also which DLR research has done. And that's the exclusive deal with SK Carbon and Brembo.
Thank you. So I find these technology transfer programs also essential for space agencies from a strategic point of view, because the more people will understand why we need space technologies here on Earth, the more people will be approving in public that we need also invest in upstream missions, and we need to also spend public money, because it's a circle. Am I right?
Yeah, I totally agree, but always saying the part of astronaut and exploration, that's the smallest part of space. The biggest part of space is commercial. And this is the services what we do. We have to invest because that's high tech. So when we look into navigation is not only finding the home or not getting lost, besides your iPhone runs out of power, because my kids cannot read the maps anymore. I have 2 boys, who's 14, and I'm born in the areas where you still had the fault maps. One extracted, you never get them back again. Maybe that was the selling trick. But navigation means also a time signal. It manages our electrical grid. And when we go all more to renewable, the management of the electrical grid is really a really important thing, because it's not so easy as in the past. It also coordinates our bank transaction. It also coordinates the connectivity of our cell phone to the base station. It's a time signal. Earth observation is more than the weather forecast. Earth observation tells us where we have oil spills in the seas, what it's doing with the Amazon. Without Earth observation, we would not even know that we would have a climate change. So I would say it's the X-ray or ultrasound for us doctors, for the patient Earth. And it gives a lot of other data for precision farming, making agriculture better, making mobility better, understanding what's going on, asset management. And the last, which is, I think, a little bit underestimated, look to the roofs of Warsaw. If you see a satellite dish, that's the space technology of the last millennium. So this was breaking bringing us more channels, bringing us more information. And this will be also in future the connectivity, because we will have a fleet of small satellites in lower Earth orbit. And this is internet, it's IoT. It will connect the last billions in the world. And if people in some other countries think that they can control the internet and shut it down, and we have that, this will give also the freedom, because you still can connect. This you will need for all the autonomous cars, ships, and so on. But it will also connect the last people in the regions. And I'm coming from the mountains, and trust me, there are still spots which internet is the issue. I think in Poland we have the same, and in other countries too. Then you have internet from the sky. That will work. And Elon Musk has started with SpaceLink, a good initiative. But there are also European startups like Hyper, which goes into that direction. And we will see more of that. It will connect the last billion. The connectivity brings education. And education means also going out of poverty.
So actually, I have a theory here that because there is a lot of discussion right now about digital transformation, everyone is going through this. And I believe that the next one will be a space transformation. By that, I mean that the space actually will become a style of our life. It will drive all the businesses in the world actually, and having a space technology inside the company or making business on it will become more and more popular. So I'm curious about your thought about this
yeah,
theory.
I think you're 100% off the right track. It's the decade of space. So this is what just was Monday with Mercedes-Benz. We're just discussing that. Space is already and will even more become the backbone of our digital industry. Already every second long distance call is done by satellite. We will have internet from satellites, all the connectivity devices. We can tell you already when you go swimming, not only what is the water quality and what the weather looks like, we can even tell you if there is algae bloom, we can tell you if there is a problem with the grass because it's not growing. So this is information where we can help to make things better. We provide the data. What the industry is out there doing it, that is really your point. Next week I will be on the NATO Space Challenge, because it's also super important for security. And I think that's also when we look into Poland and the borders, border control. We work with Frontex, we work with the NATO, because also that is about secure connection. And I think the decade of space is the right word. And it's up to the industry. And this is where we help the investors. There was never be more money invested into space. And the rockets, and that's the smallest market. It's only 1.5% of the entire space market. So this market will grow, because it's all about digitalization. Space is the infrastructure to enable it.
Well, can you give also examples of some the most amazing technology transfer applications you have seen in the last few years?
Yeah, I would not like to transfer. Maybe I would rather take a startup, because that is a good discussion we had. We have a startup in Switzerland, Clear Space, and they remove debris. And this is, you have to understand the problem when you do a new constellation near to the Earth, maybe 3,000 satellites, and you have 5 satellites maybe, which are broken, which cannot be moved. That means these 5 satellites may destroy, if you do not remove them, your entire investment. It's like your highway to Warsaw and you have 5 broken cars, which you cannot tow away. The highway is gone forever. Yeah, that would be bad. So this company had only 800,000 venture investment, was supported by the ESA BA Switzerland out of the EFL in Lausanne. And they signed last year a 100 million contract with ESA with the first testing to space removal. And we're speaking with even with the Swisscom venture people, because they said, we want to invest and we also want to do crazy things. I said, it's not crazy things, because you also invest in companies repairing your cell phone infrastructure when they are broken. So what this new company, Clear Space, is doing, the future of connectivity is in the orbit, similar like today with navigation. What we have. So it will be a mass of satellites. So what you invest now is a company who repairs your infrastructure. So it's your core business, maybe not your core business now, but your core business of tomorrow. And this is what I really like. There's a small startup company and Luke is the CEO, and he managed to win this tender, and the big old primes like Airbus are the subcontractors. And I think that I find amazing, and that is the spirit which we are moving now. So now is the time to invest. If you invest in 5 years, sorry, you're too late. And it's just through the radar beam, what we say in the military, and you see it. Now is the time to move. We help with connectivity, we help with information, and space is a great asset. And my best example is I have the one transfer which I want to share with you. One of the craziest transfer is our customer, the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church is using a data format in their Vatican library to store their old books, 1,000 years old. And we asked them, I went down to the Vatican library and I asked the Monsignore why he's not taking PDF from Adobe, which is a pretty good format. And we have developed a format together with NASA called FITS, Flexible Image Data Format, where our star maps are filing. So the Monsignore responsible said to me, Mr. Salzgeber, who can guarantee that Adobe with PDF in 50, 300, 250 years still exists? We in the Vatican have a different time horizon because they say when humankind will leave the solar system, we have to navigate like Columbus or Magellan with the stars. So the likelihood that this data format will be readable is very high. So this is long-term thinking. This is sustainable. So the Vatican is really innovative, maybe not in a quarter, but in the long term. So it's a good example of not a crazy, but a very long-lasting technology transfer.
That's really a very interesting piece of example I've ever seen, I've ever heard. And I want to also ask you about the future, because on the ESA website there is a mention that you believe a society that stops exploring stops progressing. So what kind of milestones and challenges do you predict for the societies or in the following decade? What will drive us actually?
And why I said that, because I do believe we in Europe, we are explorer. If we go to all our nations, if we go to Poland, if we go to Norway, if we go to the UK, in all our histories, we had people were pushing the boundaries, looking over the sea, wants to travel. Scientists, which question the status quo and said that maybe there's something behind. And this is fed by curiosity. And this is why my last slides, normally of my presentation, I have a slide of one of my boys, Johannes, when he was 1 year old, sitting in the toolbox and having screws and nails and hammers and really touching and exploring it because he's curious. And we all were kids. When we were kids, we all had this curiosity. So when I'm thinking and speaking about innovation, that's the only message out of this podcast you have and stream you have to remember. Try to find back your curiosity we had as kids, because this drives researchers, this drives explorers, this drives people to innovate new things and innovate the world. So we have to find back our curiosity, and because that's the fire, the oil and the fire which drives us to find something new and ask also crazy question. Can we not do that different? What is behind that hill? What is on top of that mountain? Or on top of that lake.
So I want to go back in time with your history for a moment. What actually has driven you into the space sector?
Yeah, that is a funny question. I have worked for Apple Computer, and in a time where Apple was a small company. Steve just returned in the year 2000, and I started there as a student. Yeah? So I always had jobs where I didn't apply to. Yeah? That's a little bit crazy. I think that the only job I really applied was the student working, making handbooks in Apple at that time. And then I had my own startup company, because there's the time where you have to do something new, and I was still young. And a headhunter was addressing me and said, Frank, we're looking for a head of commercial development in human spaceflight and exploration. That was 2003. And I said, working for Apple, in that time, working for Steve, working for other great managers, heading their own startup company. And I said, working for astronauts. How cool is that? And I have to say that I know most of the European astronaut corps, a lot of Americans and even Russian cosmonauts. So they are great people. They don't do it because they get the money. And I remember Dutch astronauts saying, hey, Frank, I'm a medical doctor, I'm a test pilot, but it's really tough with 41 to learn Russian again, fully, from scratch. And they do it because they believe it. And on space station, you have one toilet. That's it. No shower for half a year. Every 10 days, the same food. And all the liquids are recycled. So you drink your own pee. Sorry, I have to correct you. You don't only drink your own pee, you even drink the pee of your colleagues. So you really have to do it because you love it, and it's dangerous. You know, when you see the ratio of the shuttle failures it's a bad ratio. It is about a ratio 1 to 40. That's not so good. They really do it because they want to do it because believe in. And I think that is something, and I was still in the military, and these photos our colleagues show us where they sit all together in the Cessna model. The Russians, the European, the Americans, and they share food. And then Vladimir asked John if they share the dishes. I think it's not a bad thing, because in space, you see the world in distance. You see a blue marble in the darkness of the universe, how fragile it is. You don't see borders.
Thank you very much, Frank, for that. It was amazing talk. We started with very hard business applications, technology transfer, and moved to dreams and ideas, because this is connected in space. And I hope we inspired a lot of people today with space technologies, how they can make business on that. So if you are interested in watching more of this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, and see you in the next episode of Space Talks.